All right. I'm gonna go ahead and get us started here. It is great to see folks, and I know a lot of folks I've noticed have been signing up for the next Legal Wellbeing Network meeting almost right after the previous meeting, and so we try to post the registration for those meetings on the website so you can register for as many as you would like, and then we always send out reminders, usually the week before and the day before. Is that right, Sybil? The week before and the day before? Yep. Okay. Um, so that you know that it's coming up. So it's really great to see folks here. What I love is that we have actually been hosting these meetings since early 2020, which is amazing. And we have hosted them pretty much every other month. There's been a few gaps, but we regularly have people in these meetings, and we have really expanded the network, which I also love to see. I think there's more and more people who are really interested in this topic, interested in improving the legal profession and your workplaces and lawyer well-being, individual lawyer well-being. And so really we started this as a way for people within the legal community to get together and talk about well-being in the profession. And we've had lots of different speakers over time. We try to have speakers who are doing something either in their workplaces or something that is relevant to the improvement of the profession in some way. And we've tried to tie it locally to Massachusetts. And I know we have people here who are outside of Massachusetts, and we always welcome you, and we welcome your thoughts and your ideas, and we love sharing those ideas. But we do try to keep it local, and we want to share, we want to share information that we think is going to be tangible, things that you can really take away and use, and to give you ideas of, what else can we be doing to improve things here in Massachusetts in the profession. So I welcome you today to our Legal Wellbeing Network meeting. This will be our last meeting for the summer. We'll take a break in July and August, and then we will return on September 23rd. So if you would like to register for the fall meetings, feel free to go to our website. Sybil's going to put that in the chat, and she may have already. I don't have the chat open, but you can go to that link and you can register for those meetings in the fall, because we will have more. Just a couple of updates from the SJC Standing Committee on Lawyer Wellbeing. And I should say, for those of you who are not familiar with the SJC Standing Committee on Lawyer Wellbeing, so we are a committee that was created by Chief Justice Gantz in actually 2020, but really it was the result of the National Task Force report on lawyer well-being in 2017, and then a steering committee in Massachusetts met and wrote a report on particular issues within the legal community in Massachusetts, and that came out in 2019 with a number of different recommendations. And so what we have been tasked to do as a standing committee is to implement those recommendations. And you can find that report on our website if you want to learn more. But I think many of you are well aware of that by now. We work with a lot of bar associations and workplaces across the Commonwealth, and in addition to the court, to implement those recommendations. So a couple of things that I would like to share with you, and I'm going to just quickly share my screen here so I can show you. Okay, share. Okay. And so Uh, if you go to our website, so we have this website, lawyerwellbeingma.org. We have a lot of materials and reports and resources and programs on our website. And so I just want to note here that we have just added our 2024 annual report. And we will be sending that out via email, so you'll get a copy of that, but it's up on our website, and we take a look at all the different highlights and our achievements of this past year, so that you can get a sense of what we've been doing and our priorities moving forward. So I encourage you to take a look at that. This work would not be feasible without all of your involvement. It can't just be the committee that's doing this work, but all the involvement of the bar associations and workplaces and individuals who are really committed to improving the profession is really important. It's essential to make progress. So that is up on our website. I also wanted to mention that we have been running now a mentorship program now for nearly 5 years. We piloted a program early on because we know how important mentorship is to the well-being of lawyers, helping lawyers thrive, and also to deal with challenges in their practice. And so we've been growing this mentorship program, and on our website you'll actually see, I'll go back here to the homepage, but under resources, and we have a lot of resources. If you go to our mentorship program, you will be sent to this website, which is a special website for a statewide Massachusetts mentorship program that we run. It's an annual program, and you'll see there's 2 types of programs that we run: Attorney Connect and a Mentor Connect. Attorney Connect is actually a self-matching system where mentees can actually go into the program and they can connect with multiple people. And it's really a way for them to increase their network and gain access to different perspectives. And then there's also this Mentor Connect program, and that's more of the traditional one-on-one mentorship, and people are matched for the course of the 9 months of the program. They have to meet at least 6 times. We train our mentors. We have 50 mentors right now. And if you're interested in this program, either as a mentee or mentor, please feel free to get in touch. We do have a sign-up form here right on the website. This is what the program actually looks like when you get into the program, and you'll see we actually have bios of everyone. And so mentees can actually go in here and click on someone and read their bio and select a date they'd like to meet. And then they have their meeting. And so it's been a really successful program, and you can see you can sort by different practice areas and bar, affinity bar, affiliation. We really try to be cognizant of diversity of our mentors in a lot of different ways. So this has been a really great program. We're really targeting new lawyers. We're targeting lawyers that have been historically underrepresented in the profession, lawyers who are in transition, and also lawyers who have been disciplined, but really lawyers at any point in their career that would like to benefit from mentorship. This is a great program, free program that we run. So I wanted to mention that. And then the last thing I will mention is that, so since 2020, the SJC amended a rule that now requires the collection of demographic information of lawyers in Massachusetts. And so if you are a lawyer in Massachusetts, licensed in Massachusetts, and you've registered in the past 5 years, you will know that there is a demographic survey that you have to complete. Every single question gives you the option of prefer not to answer, so you don't have to complete it if you don't want to. We encourage you to complete it because it's really important for us to have information about the makeup of the profession, so we can really be thinking about programs and services, attrition rates, and so ways to really help attorneys. And so on our website too, we have demographic data, and we actually have this demographic dashboard. And so this is all information that is public. It's all, everything is private. There's no identification. There's no way that anyone's information can actually be connected because the survey is completely anonymous. But you can see here that you can sort by different. You can sort by different filters. So if we go to Massachusetts lawyers and we can select. We can go to. We can sort by different features. We can say, solo practitioners. So if we're looking at solo practitioners, we can filter by age and disability, gender identity, race. And then we can look at employment characteristics. We can look at practice area. We can also look at counties. So who's practicing in what counties. We can select a group of interest. This is particularly 22 to 34-year-olds. Where are they primarily practicing? Suffolk, but there's actually pretty good spread here. So a lot of that information is now available, and we encourage you to take a look at it and use it. And we will be coming out with a report in the next year or so. All right. So those were the things, and again, you can find that on our website. So those were the few things that I wanted to share. I also wanted to mention that I saw here, I think Shalini is still here. So I see one of our co-chairs here, Shalini George, is one of the co-chairs of the SJC Standing Committee on Lawyer Wellbeing. So I wanted to recognize her, and I am guessing there are probably other folks on here from our committee. I see Bernardo Quadra. I see folks from Lawyers Concerned for Lawyers, and also a number of people in the legal community that have been really involved with a lot of the efforts. And so again, we couldn't be doing this work without all of you. So with that, I would like to introduce, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to introduce our speaker for today. I want to introduce Jennifer Riggs. I met Jennifer on a panel for the Mass Bar Association's Young Lawyers Division. It was for their conference, and we had a well-being panel, and I really appreciated her insights into the profession. Jennifer has worked or did work for a number of years as a public interest lawyer in Massachusetts, and she endured a lot of stress, and I'm hoping she'll share a little bit more, but maybe did not have all of the tools to manage that stress. And I want to just quote Jennifer, if you'll indulge me, from your website. You say, when you talk about yourself, and I quote, Jennifer says, "One day, driving home past a Burger King, I saw a help wanted sign and wondered if I could work there and still pay my law school loans. That felt like a turning point. And after that, all I could think about was leaving." And I think that a lot of attorneys feel that way. Jennifer did ultimately leave the profession, and she's focused on principles of neuroscience and mindfulness to help others better support their own work and their personal lives. And so I asked Jennifer to come here and talk about her own journey and provide some tangible elements of the work that she's now doing and how it can help attorneys thrive. So Jennifer, I will pass things over to you. Thank you for being here.
Thanks so much, Heidi. Thank you for inviting me and sharing that little tidbit of a story because I still can remember that moment to this day. I remember the sign, the car I was driving in, where it was, and it really was a turning point. I was like, because it was a serious thought. Can I work there and pay off my law school loans? And when I started to realize that was serious, it was like, I think I gotta leave. So thank you so much for the work that you are all doing on well-being in the law. So today I'm a mindful leadership coach and trainer and the creator of Pathways to Change, which is a framework for mindful leadership and well-being. Um, but yeah, I was a public interest lawyer and I didn't leave the law immediately. I was a researcher and consultant studying indigent defense systems for a number of years after the practice of law. Um, but that's why this work is so important to me now, because when I was practicing, I had high stress and I had uh, challenging feelings that I didn't know what to do with. And no one was talking about stress back then. No one was talking about well-being in the law. And frankly, I think I just felt like if I admitted to that, that it meant that I was not a good lawyer because I needed to be strong, right? And it felt really vulnerable to admit to that. So I internalized a lot and it began to affect my well-being. And then I burned out, and that led me to that that Burger King moment. Um, so let me share my screen here. Um, and what happened to my um, get my slides up for you. Let's see. All right, can you see those? All right. So here's where we're going to go. We're going to, because the brain's always trying to predict, right? Where are we going? I'm going to introduce you to mindful leadership, what it means, and just the overview of my mindful leadership framework. We're going to talk about managing challenging thoughts and feelings. And I'm going to introduce you to a practice that is from the core of my framework. I call it the 3 A's. And it's a practice to get us from reactivity to wise response. I'll share with you the tool and some of the research with that. And then I'm going to take you through a guided practice of the 3 A's so you can get a chance to see how it works for you, how you might use it. I really want to make this practical for you. So, and for that practice, you can think as I'm presenting what you might want to work with. So I want you to think about something that you're feeling emotionally reactive about right now, or something recent that you can work with. That's what we're going to bring to the practice. And then we'll end with a discussion. So that is where we are headed. And why isn't this letting me forward my slide? Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. Okay. I want to give you a couple examples of mindful leadership. This is a story from Thich Nhat Hanh, who is a he passed away, Vietnamese Buddhist monk. And he used to talk about the Vietnamese refugee boats, crowded refugee boats, and that when they were met with pirates or storms, that if everyone panicked, all would be lost. But if just one person remained calm and centered, that was enough for everyone to survive. That's an example of mindful leadership, as is this quote this is Ilya Prigogine, was a Nobel Prize winning chemist, and he studied complex systems. And I love this quote. When a complex system is far from equilibrium, small islands of coherence in a sea of chaos have the capacity to shift the entire system to a higher order. That's the power of mindful leadership, because when one person can show up on that boat or in a sea of chaos and be a small island of coherence, we can have ripple effects on those around us, because our emotions are contagious. And mindful leadership will support not only your brain and your executive functioning, but your well-being and your resilience and the impact that you can have on others. And I think mindful leadership is really critical in this time. We are in like unprecedented times of large scale challenges and uncertainties and chaos. So if more of us can show up as mindful leaders, I think we've got a greater chance of shifting the entire system to a higher order. I want to share with you actually a couple of neuroscience principles for how we know that we can do this, how we can impact others, because our emotions are contagious. The first of these is about mirror neurons. You might have heard of these. They are in the outer layer of the brain, the cortex, and they were first found in monkeys, but there's evidence now that we have them in human brains as well. And essentially what mirror neurons do is they activate when we observe behavior in another person. So for instance, if I see you smiling, my mirror neurons for smiling light up in me. And I actually have an experience of smiling to a lesser degree than if I were actually smiling, but we do have that feelings. And this is so that we can understand how other people are feeling, and it can guide our actions. And then another system that we have, and this is part of our automatic nervous system, and it's called neuroception. And the concept with neuroception is that it's, well, let me show you here. The vagus nerve is really a critical part of neuroception. And that's this nerve here that connects all these internal organs up into the brain. And the organs include the heart and the lungs. And 80% of the messages that travel through that vagus nerve go from the body to the brain. So the brain's always receiving messages about the state of the body. And what this neuroception process does is it very quickly gets information. So let's say like the heart is beating rapidly, or we're holding our breath. That information goes reflexively quickly to the brain so that we can decide whether or not we are safe. Are we safe in our environment? Are we safe with another person? And I think if you think about it, we've all had an experience of, say, stepping into a room and sensing, or meeting a person and sensing really quickly whether or not we are safe with them. That's neuroception. And that's also the power that we have to affect others with how we are showing up. So you can see that if we can remain calm and centered, we can have a positive impact on those around us. And that's what mindful leadership is about. It's about being that leader in the boat, about being the small island of coherence in the sea of chaos. It's also about accessing the part of the brain that we need for greater executive functioning and the practice of law. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But first, let me share with you just give you a real quick overview of my Pathways to Change Mindful Leadership framework. It's 5 modules. And the first and core module is down at the bottom here, and that's awareness. And what I'm going to share with you is a practice from that module today. It's really the doorway to the framework. That's awareness. And then self-care kind of speaks for itself. It supports our brain and our capacity to change. Authenticity over on the right is about strengths, values, purpose, confidence. And I think these are sort of like three legs of the stool that get us into mindful choice and mindful action. And that's where we create change, and that is our growth. So that's just a quick intro to the framework. And this is the practice I will be sharing with you. I call it the 3 A's, and it's about shifting from reactivity to wise response. But let's first talk about kind of what we typically do or where we might go wrong before we get into the practice. Common management strategies, I often call them unstrategies, for handling unwanted thoughts and feelings. And this is where I was at when I was practicing law all the time. I was in one of these. We follow them. So we kind of just keep having the thoughts, we keep telling the same stories, and we keep feeling the feelings, and they get stronger, right? And every time we have a thought, by the way, we're deepening the neural pathway for that thought in the brain. So that's one, following them. Another one, super common, is we bury or suppress. I mean, you don't know what to do with it. And let's face it, they're unwanted. So we'll just bury, suppress, throw it in the junk closet. I use that metaphor a lot. Just throw it in the junk closet, shut the door. Or we distract ourselves from it, right? I mean, how many things do we have to distract ourselves these days? That's a really common unstrategy. And while any of these strategies or management techniques can be helpful in a moment, the problem is that if this is all we are doing with unwanted thoughts and feelings, over time, actually, they can make us more reactive, less resilient, less comfortable and confident about handling our feelings. And again, I think that's essentially what happened to me when I was practicing. So the thing is, we actually can shift out of this, but we also have some, let's just say, like cultural norms that have gotten us to where we are, and that we sort of need to kind of work against them to create the shift to mindful leadership. I think that, our culture highly values productivity. We have never-ending task lists, right? How much can you get done in a day? And if you don't get all that list done, well, then, it's on to the next day. But we tend to value ourselves by how much we do, right? And then, of course, there's the ladder of success. Where are you going, right? And so I think that we have this way of just focusing on doing all the time over being, and over, like, how are we showing up, and in fact, what are we feeling internally. And then I also think in the legal profession, there's additional expectations, or sort of signals of success, right? Because let's face it, if you got to be able to react, like in a deposition or on trial, like you got to get your objection in real quickly, right? So there's reacting and sparring, and shows of external strength are what help win cases and gain clients and gain respect in the profession. So I think I'm just trying to say, like, it's understandable why we are focusing on doing, and why we might feel a little reluctant or uncomfortable to see, like, what is underneath the doing, and slowing down to focus on being. Here is just a scenario of how a choice to show up as a mindful leader or to react in a typical, let's like kind of chaotic work day. Okay. So imagine that it's 3:45 and you're preparing for a hearing in a case that you've just inherited from a colleague who's on medical leave, and you just noticed some important facts that hadn't been highlighted. And then the client is really anxious about the hearing and is awaiting, like he's called you and is waiting a return call from you. Meanwhile, you just left the managing partner's office and you have just received some slightly critical feedback. And then a junior associate shows up at your door and is asking you to, she really wants to file something ASAP, and do you have some time to look at it and give her some feedback? Okay, that's a lot. A lot of feelings might be arising, right? A lot of things to cause you stress all at once. So what might you do? There's a couple of pathways, right? A couple of paths that you might take. One is, I think, really like a typical, like, let's just get all this done, right? Like, I'm just, okay, I'm stressed, but whatever, just like soldier on. And you notice, like, okay, you're kind of annoyed about the client. You feel like maybe he's just being a little bit needy, and you'll deal with him tomorrow before the hearing. And then you're kind of stuck in blame for the colleague that's on leave. Like, why didn't they tell you about this? And you're just kind of focusing on blame. And then you're feeling a bit defensive about the feedback, and you kind of brush it off as unfair. And then you're frustrated with the junior associate, like, why is she bothering you right now? And you kind of tell her, oh, I'm sure it's fine. Can you just review it yourself? So all of that, totally understandable, right? But is it really the wisest response? What's another path? Another path is you take a few moments to pause. You pay attention to your internal state. You notice you're holding your breath. You're making fists. You're clenching your jaw. You recognize some initial feelings, the defensiveness, the frustration, the anxiety, and you work with them briefly to reset yourself. And then you're able to respond with a little bit more clarity and compassion for yourself and the others involved. So how can we get from path 1 to path 2? And that's where the 3 A's come in. All right, you guys wanted to know what the 3 A's are, right? Let's get to it. Okay, so A1, like the sauce, A1, awareness. And this is awareness of your present moment experience. It's an awareness of your thoughts. Rather than following the thoughts, you become aware of them. You notice them. These might be some of your thoughts, right? You become aware of the feelings that you're having in that moment about the situation. And you become aware, this one's, I think, really important because whenever we're noticing what's happening in the body, our physical sensations, that is taking us to the present moment, right? We can't be in the past or in the future when we're paying attention to what's happening in the body. So you're noticing where there might be tension, and you're noticing what's happening with the breath. So that is A1, the first A, present moment awareness. And it's, if you think about it, we can't change what we're not aware of, right? If we're not aware, we're just kind of on autopilot. If we become aware, then we're able to get to like the middle of the framework, right? A mindful choice. So why is this an important step? I want to share with you really quickly some neuroscience on present moment awareness. You can just ignore the stuff over here on the right. It's just looking for like a open openly available brain image for you. And what I want to show you is the parts that are referred to on the left, the prefrontal cortex, the amygdala, and the hippocampus. So there's more and more research being done on the effects of present moment awareness and the brain. We can also call it mindfulness, right? Present moment awareness is a mindfulness practice. And it's really fascinating, the research that they're finding on the effects of mindful awareness on the brain. And I think two of the biggest ones are the effects on the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala. So what research shows is that this practice can actually improve or increase the gray matter in the prefrontal cortex. And that is, I just kind of added this oval here to show you that's the prefrontal cortex. It's an area behind the forehead, the front of the cortex. I call it like the CEO of the brain. And that's because it's really in charge of our self-regulation, important executive functionings like high-level decision-making and planning. It's also what we need for focus and attention and being adaptable and being aware of ourself and others. So it's really important. So awareness helps the prefrontal cortex. Meanwhile, it also reduces activity in the amygdala. And that's like the home of our fight, flight, freeze response here in the limbic brain. It's this purple area. And that's like the quick threat response, the stress response, right? So it can lower that reactivity. And then research shows that it also helps improve the gray matter in the hippocampus, this area also in the limbic brain near the amygdala here. And that area of the brain is associated with our conscious memory and emotional regulation. So you can see how helpful awareness can be in the practice of law, right? In helping improve our brain functioning, and then of course our emotional regulation. So that's A1. All right, ready? Should I pause here, or I can go right into A2? I don't know if there are any questions yet, Heidi, but
I don't see any questions yet, but
okay.
if there are, please feel free to drop them into the chat
Yeah.
or raise a hand, and we're happy to pause.
Okay, thanks. And I can take questions at the end too. All right. So the second A is articulate. This is about labeling the feelings, putting the feelings into words. So what this does is it really helps us understand what we're feeling so the brain can get clarity and know what to do. Oftentimes we just have a sense of I'm stressed or I'm cranky or I'm off, right? And that's not all that helpful. So can we actually bring awareness to the feelings and then label them? So, and this is a process of, you don't want to identify with the feeling. So it's not like I'm afraid or I'm angry, but rather just like, this is anger, right? Or you can say anger or fear. It's just an experience you're having and you're labeling it. And there was a really interesting study from UCLA that showed that this process of articulating a negative emotion lessened reactivity in the amygdala, the fight, flight, freeze, and increased activity in the prefrontal cortex, that CEO of the brain. So it's a really helpful step. All right, A3 is accept. This is about allowing your experience to be there. And if you think about it, we can't change something if we don't first accept that it's there. So this is not about accepting something that's unacceptable. It's simply about accepting whatever your experience is in the moment and letting it be there. I like to think about it as actually giving it space because our emotions have energy. And I like to think about just kind of widening the space around the feeling, to let it be there. It's also not about wallowing in an emotion and getting stuck there, because what actually happens, and it can seem counterintuitive, but that when we actually accept or allow a feeling to be there, even just briefly, that the energy of it can begin to dissipate. And then from there, we're better able to connect to the prefrontal cortex and shift. So this last of the A's is really often the hardest to practice, but it's really important for shifting our state. And there's real quickly an interesting study. This one was from the University of Ireland that showed, this study was about increasing tolerance to pain. And what it found was that practicing acceptance of pain was the most effective way to increasing tolerance to it. And it was actually twice as effective as distracting from it. So again, while it can seem counterintuitive, it's actually a really useful step in the tool. So, all right. Are you guys ready to try a practice? See what it's like? Do you have does everyone have something that's causing some emotional reactivity? If you don't, like, awesome. That's great. Most of us have something, and it can be like, we want to maybe even start with something small, because this is your first time practicing this. Don't go with something that feels like super overwhelming for you right now. But let's just a quick review. Okay. Awareness, articulate, accept. Okay, that's what we're going to work through. So what I would recommend for this is, if you're comfortable, either looking down or closing your eyes, because remember, we are bringing awareness to our internal experience. And if you want to shut the camera off just for the practice, that's fine too. All right, so ready? Take a breath or two, and then go ahead and bring this situation to mind that's making you feel a bit reactive. And just begin by noticing the thoughts that you're having about it. Noticing the thoughts. So not following them, but just notice, what are the thoughts? What are the stories about the situation? Notice if you're judging any of the thoughts, and just let that go. Come back to just the awareness. And then, what are you noticing in your body as you think about the situation? What are the sensations in the body, areas of tension? What's happening with the breath? Typical areas might be like the forehead, the brow, the jaw, the neck and shoulders. You might notice there's tension in the belly. So not judging what's here, just noticing. And then what about the feelings? As you think about this situation, what are you feeling in this moment? And now we'll go to the second A, articulate. So can you label the feelings that you're having? This is blank. This is blank. And then the third A, accept. Can you just accept the experience? Allow the feelings to be here without judging or wanting them to go away. You can even imagine that you are creating a larger space around wherever you notice the feelings. Just for a few more breaths, can you just accept whatever you're experiencing? All right. Feel your feet on the floor, your seat in the chair, and just notice how you feel now. That was your first 3 A's practice. Notice how it feels now on the other side of the practice. And did anything dissipate or shift? If not, no worries, because this is your first time. And every time you come back to these steps, or frankly, even to just one of the steps, you're going to build and strengthen the neural pathways for the practice and for that habit. So, just real quickly in closing, being a mindful leader is a path to presence and greater wisdom, to wise choice and action. It's a path of slowing down, reflecting, and shifting how you are being. I think this mindful leadership path, well, I know it can improve your well being and your brain, but it will also improve your impact. And I believe it could change the ripple effects, the culture back to being that island of coherence in the sea of chaos, shifting an entire system to a higher order. And then I just want to leave you with this quote. I love this quote from Maya Angelou. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So I just invite you to commit to just one deliberate pause in your day to practice the 3 A's. And I think if you repeat this consistently, you are going to build better neural connections in your brain, executive functioning, and mindful leadership. That's the presentation and the 3 A's. And what I would love to do now is to hear from you.